Well, I first of all love the sun in LA and how it fades everything. And I just like this sort of faded glory of it. For me. I mean, I don't live there, and I've spent a lot of time there studying and meeting people and then collaborating with Nicole Disson, who's the producer of this project. She actually had done a bunch of work at the Standard, creating this program called The Series there. And so she approached me and said, hey, I have this amazing space, let's make a film. And she was really instrumental in bringing these LA characters to the table. And she developed a really creative relationship with a huge community, and so I knew that's something I wanted to tap into, so I was like, oh my God, what a great opportunity to just plug into a place. So kind of launching from that initiation, and I wanted LA, like, what I love about it is like the want. People go there and they have dreams and hopes, and even on the streets, I was on Sunset and just stopped at a light, I like glance over, and there's this like homeless man just sitting with really pretty man, but really worn, and his skin was just leather, and you could just see all the hours he'd sat out there looking in the sun, and he was once something, or once thought he would be something, and now he just wasn't. And for me, there's just sort of this dichotomy of hope and loss that is really fruitful. And Hollywood, I mean,
the sense of the city.
Uh-huh.
I think that was the biggest part about Sleepover L.A. Now, we know L.A., and you had that vibe, but it wasn't pretentious. It wasn't cliche.
Cool. Yeah.
Especially that shot. There was this rough cut where it showed the high heels with those white,
Yeah.
That was crazy. And
you like that good, yeah.
I loved it, and because that's what you see in LA all the time.
I know.
For a second you think like, oh my gosh, look at her,
Right.
And then it cuts to the elevator, which is my favorite scene.
Oh, you like that? That was great.
Especially with the music and everything, and those macarons,
Yeah, no kidding.
It's I don't know, it's kind of out of place, but it totally ties in with her, or your, in that case, experience of, off the beaten path.
Sure, yeah.
How did you, was that like an initial idea you had, or where did that come from?
Off the beaten path?
Yeah.
Well, I have this thing with books. I just love books, and so I kind of collect books and covers of books, and I found that book at the Strand in New York City, 99 cents out front, like that. They're racks,
Sure.
And I knew that in the Standard I wanted to somehow approach this like quintessential LA-ness from the outside, and that book was just so kind of like cute and punchy and predictable, and I just thought it just fit right in, so I just pulled it off my shelf. I kind of collect things that inspire me, and then once I start with something, I kind of pull things in to augment it and build it. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you that. If you got a really great script, would you be interested in directing that? If it wasn't something you haven't written, if it was something out of the blue, would you be interested to do it in your own way? But like with the material, it's already all there on the page.
I would actually love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done, I haven't found one that has made sense, or have been in a situation where that's been presented that works with the right collaborators, but I would love to take something really solid and corrupt it, and remove a scene and tell the exact same scene without words, and I would do that. I mean, I would surprise you with how much more I would say without words, but I'd like to lean on that story, and I'm looking for that actually, because it's a lot this film, I was like, did the editing and the directing and the acting, and it's just like, oh my God, I got to step out and be able to lean on somebody else's story.
Right.
So yeah, it's something I think about.
How was that experience to direct and act in it, do the dance choreography for the dancers?
Yeah.
How did you manage to do all that? I mean, how much did you rely on, maybe the DP to do his own work, or were you, fussing around and then checking everything? How was that for you? Yeah,
it was a clusterfuck of just like, oh my God. Let's just start with being an actor and then calling action on yourself. And
it must be hard.
It really is hard. And especially when you're dealing with low budget and time sensitivity, and it's like, okay, we have 45 minutes to do the lobby.
Right.
Shit, okay. So there's no time for playback, which I do really like if I'm in my material.
You do?
Yeah. But I wanted to. I've been working a lot with Judith Weston, this teacher I was mentioning, and just sort of working with actors and really creating a playful space of permission, which is kind of riffing. So I was working with this actor, Evie, who plays the consort, the gentleman in the production, and I kept changing the lines on him, and I could see he was confused. So it was this really interesting place of like being inside of the material, knowing what I would get from him and kind of directing it while being in it, and then calling cut. So there is a real intimate relationship with the DP that needs to happen. This is my first time working with Austin, and it was excellent and great, and he was beautiful. Beautiful hand with the camera. I have a pretty intense reference, mood board, looks I wanted, angles. Okay. We did go through and figure out the shots beforehand, and we did some tests with he came down with a red, and we actually tested some angles and stuff, which was great. So he gave a lot to the production, it was good.
Because it did seem to me that, as you said, you had a clear vision, let's say, of the film, how you wanted it to look like and everything, but still, maybe because of the pressure you were under and the time frame, you had to improvise at points, right? You had to come up with ideas on the spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's what at least we really look for in films, It stays fresh, it has that raw quality.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you see movies and they're great, but they're very, let's say, stereotypical.
Yeah.
And they follow this certain structure.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting with your film, especially with your background as a dancer, right?
Yeah.
It brings a whole new element. So how did you get into filmmaking per se? Because you were dancing before, and I'm sure you were interested in it. But where did you say I need to explore film?
It's happened. I was touring with David Byrne. His last album with Brian Eno, Everything That Happens Today, and we were traveling around the world for a year and got to see things I never would have seen otherwise, and kind of was just blown open in terms of just sentient experiences and perspective, and I felt like I had to do something. I felt just so compelled to make something out of that. So hotel rooms, I just love this concept of a space that is a proposed neutral space where we have no history. It pretends to be clean, but I have this whole collection of images called room remnants, where I would find remnants of previous inhabitants, and it's gnarly, man. Like, I know places to look to find, even in fancy hotels. Sometimes the fancier hotels have the dirtiest corners. I don't know, it's another film to make, room remnants, but like a scrunchie, like what is a scrunchie? Like, where did that scrunchie end up? There, why? But anyway, putting that aside, so I was just I'd be in these rooms, and it was a time where there was so much stimulation performing, 6,000 to 20,000 people 3 to 5 nights a week was this last. So I'd hang out in these rooms and just chill. In each room, when you go to so many different places so quickly, everything stands out. It's like, oh, this is how Germans do this. This is how we're in Macedonia, this is my hotel room. Or each location was just suddenly became so specific and so different. And I always noticed bodies and how place and circumstance informs people's physicality. From the way the language moves their mouth, to how often hands are used, to clothing. I'm really fascinated with style, and so I was just in all of these places, cutting to the chase here, and would always buy a piece in these places, and it would make me move. I mean, it would change how I felt about myself, depending on what I wear. I always feel that way, but then I was in these rooms and eating this food, and so I was
you move literally?
Yeah, I feel different when I wear different clothes. I move differently.
Sure.
If I have this and this is button, and this is this is my German take. This is like Lily does Germany.
Right.
The button-down shirts, I've been really into tightly buttoned shirts.
Buttoning up my shirt, right?
No, I don't know if there's a formality and a specificity that I just kind of feel here. So that's what I've been doing. But point being is I was just so inspired by the distinctness of each place, and so I started just photographing myself or having a friend take photos of me. I would frame it and just click, and I would move and put on music, and then I'd have these still images, and then I would taught myself to edit and just edit these images of me moving in this place, and would make these short stop motion films. And I just was so exploring story through still images in repetition, which is film. I mean, it's just slowed down, right? So that's a very long-winded way. So basically I started doing that and making these short little visceral films, and then teaming with other professionals and a DP, Ben Wolf production company. It was shooting a documentary on us, actually, at Topiary Productions, on tour, and just was really interested in dance saying things, not just saying things and people responding to them. Like basically people that wouldn't have otherwise liked dance were liking this modern dance on tour with David. So I was thinking, man, the power of body, and people like things they don't even know they like. So then it became this like thing where I wanted to convince people, I wanted to get people hooked, and nothing better than this object in this film that was sort of sexy and weird, that people could take and watch in their own time.
Would you be able or willing to give up creative control if you had like a big budget? You know, in terms of maybe you get a great script that you love and they say, direct that for us. But then in the editing room or even in the process, you know, we have people yelling at you, talking to you, and just people give, you know, so many different answers. One said, well, I don't care, I want to have access to a broad audience. Other people say, no, I could never do that. How do you feel about that?
I would try it. I think it would not be for me, but I would try it.
Right?
I would try it. I always want to turn over all stones.
Yeah.
What does it feel like? I mean, sort of painful to say, but what would it feel like to have to sacrifice my creative vision, but to then have more discourse, you know? I mean, let's see if that happens. And I have taken less of a commercial route, and because I've wanted to really define what I do, and I feel like that's one thing that's really important to me in all art, all performers, is if they're distinct. That's sort of the operative word. It's like, is it chosen, are they committed to what they're doing? So for me, it's been really important to figure that out. But now I feel like I've done that, and it's exciting to have more opportunity, people interested in seeing that expand.
Like, where do you see yourself, you know, in a couple of months, years or something? I mean, you don't have to share.
No, it's cool. Yeah, no, I'm working on 2 features, and both that use dream, lip and glass, that use dream in really different ways. And one is a large cast of a selection of sort of short tableaus that intersect. I love short form, and so finding these sort of specific points of overlap inside of a larger story with dream, and then another one takes dream, but I actually want to stop and like, what is dream? And I've been writing about that, and dream is that for me is like reveals a subterranean truth. So what is not always said, what can't be said, like you just said, the spaces between the words, but it's also sort of what we imagine or what we fantasize, and also what we fear. And so for me, a big moment when I'm writing these features is that incorporates, yes, more like traditional time and conventional narrative, but is at what point in a story do you surface tension into other? Right. You know, so it's not just gratuitous. So I've studied a lot of musicals, and there's usually one beat in a musical, like component in a dreamscape. So basically, I'm going to tell you I love you in 7 different ways, and let me dance it out. Let me like slow camera is going to dolly around us, and we're going to do this with our arms, and we're going to lean in, and then we're going to say I love you, and I love you when I'm 17. I'm going to love you when I'm 30. I love you when I was born. I love you like the stars. Right? It's one beat. And that's how dream has functioned, and so I want to actually I want something to happen in the dream state. So it's like I'm actually telling you that I loved you, but I don't no longer love you because you have bad breath, or because whatever it is, like whatever that story is. So I'm exploring that, and then I'm also exploring a series of fashion shorts and a soap opera series, along with Sleepover, the sequence. Okay. So I have 4 sort of projects brewing.
Yeah. Speaking of Sleepover Berlin, is there any ideas you've been gathering since you got to Berlin?
Jumping right in.
Yeah. I just thought about that because we talked about it the other night.
We did, and that was fun that you just kind of threw that my way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I mean, for me, actually, ideas come from place and people and circumstance, and I like building, kind of riffing on what's in front of me. So the Sleepover Berlin is, for me, just getting some ideas about textures and quality of people and simple little scenarios. So nothing to be disclosed yet, but for sure, I mean, just in terms of the city is so fertile in the textures, and I'm really excited. For me, what I love is just like how much it echoes its own history. I love being able to see what happened in a place, just from a wall or just little signs of past. So I get excited. Yeah.
What does it mean to you to shoot something? You just put it out there, and do you care about people wanting to find out more, or do you say no, you should just figure it out for yourself? It's not about that. It's just really the experience, and please just watch it for what it is.
No, I really want people to, I either want people to get it or feel like they've gotten something. I don't need them to get what I'm saying, but I want them to either feel like they've gotten it or to feel comfortable not knowing. I don't want to leave someone feeling like they don't get it, they're dumb, or it's dumb, because, you know, like I don't want them to feel like there's something missing. And I am really, really interested in like getting more simple and sort of straightforward and kind of paring down, being I mean, I have a big like Michael Haneke fix these days, which is a completely different approach to what I'm doing, but I love this sort of raw, I mean, what I find with my performers and bodies and actors that I work with is to get them to, I want everyone to take a risk and be a version of themselves, and with some high stakes, right? So I want to work with who they are, but I'd like to actually work with just being more and setting up situations that aren't just physicality. I just want to challenge myself with that. I do think if you keep pushing, you keep finding, and something happens when you keep finding this groove or this niche. Like you'll be like, oh, I'm making a bird. And you're like, and then I'm like, oh man, that's an awesome neck. And then suddenly the neck becomes a tree. And you're like, oh dude, I have to make this. This is about the forest. This is not about the bird. What was I thinking? Right. This reminds me of this funny story. I'll just random rant here, but I was painting my mom's fingernail when I was younger, and I couldn't stay on the nail. I was like young, and so I just decided to paint her thumb. So just the fingernail polish became the thumb, and I think that could be an interesting metaphor in the right context.
True. Yeah.
So.
Taking things further.
Yeah, taking things, thinking, looking so hard that what you thought something was becomes something else, and not to make it blurry, but to have it evolve. So.
I think that's what we like most about filmmaking, or doing those things, that you start out with an idea, and then a week later, if it's like a short film, a really short project, you end up somewhere completely else, you know?
Yeah.
And then you have the footage, and it's something you've never imagined, and then you edit it, and it's something completely different entirely again.
And you cannot be attached to what you had before, or else you're gonna be cutting a film you thought you shot.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not what you have.
Sometimes I don't envy them, but if you have like a clear plan and you shoot exactly what you've intended to shoot, and then you edit it the way you want it to, and the end result, like that's crazy to me, you know. But in a way, I guess it's really productive too.
It's great. I mean, that's something I do aspire to do more, to actually do as much in pre-production. I feel like a lot of my projects have been very post-production heavy. Yeah. But also figuring out with dance, with bodies, you don't always know what you're getting. And I don't always like working with it just depends on the casting, but with really studied dancers, it just depends. I mean, it depends on what the material is. So, especially in dance footage, but I just cut out all the bad shots. I'll just literally cut out, like have in and out points and get rid of them, and then realize this is what I'm working with, this is what's gonna work. In this process, I did that, but then I had to go back to the original ones, and I ended up pulling in things that I didn't think would work, because the story needed a little bit more humanity. So I did go for pretty and glamorous. So it's funny, I did end up using some things that I initially thought weren't as attractive or successful, just because it needed like that, just like, you know, just like this is not so absurd. We are here at a table sitting having a conversation.
Yeah, the interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know every inch of that footage, and I basically cut 30 films to get that.
Shit.
So it's, yeah, I mean, that's embarrassing to say how much time I've spent with the material, but I just really trying to figure out what, so, and I did really, I mean, we didn't just hang out in a hotel and have fun. I mean, there was a lot of preparations.
Right.
And just to clarify that, it wasn't, this one guy said, so how much planning? And I'm like, I'll send you my, 30-page style booklet if you want to see, that I want every creative to know. I basically had a 45-minute film, and I was thinking, okay, I need to get under 50, or else this is not programmable. I was so seduced by the footage. It was like, I just spent hours looking at it. It was so beautiful and interesting. And anyway, so then you try to crop it, but then you don't want to lose anything, so you cut it down, and suddenly there's 40,000 cuts because you don't want to lose any take.
Sure.
And then I try to take a day or a couple weeks off even and look at it and realize it's totally schizophrenic. So it's just about whittling down and trying to get to that essence.
Yeah.
I co-wrote this with Andrea Claire Mayo, and she and I talked a lot about trying to be more literal inside of this alternate reality, and that was a goal in this film, was to interface dialogue. And I've actually never had dialogue in a film, so that was something we wanted to work with. And then
it's a challenge too.
Oh. I mean, it's really
People
hard.
do dialogue all the time, but it's like, it's not good, And then I think it's hard, really, to incorporate dialogue and to make it meaningful.
Dialogue is really hard, especially because I realize I'm a weird talker, so I write things that I would say, and then someone else saying it sounds horrible. There's so many lines in that film. I looked at it, and this editor, I was also working with Alex Lee Moyer, helped me in this editing process. And she said, what the hell is this? She's like, what am I gonna do with this? And I'm thinking, because it's really it was dark, and there's a lot of swears, and sort of seedy, and just trying to figure out how to play with irony, and then how to play with earnesty, and but just to lastly say, Mark Deliantoni, the composer, we have worked so collaboratively on this to create. I feel like his music is the dialogue at times, and is really brings to life and humanizes what I'm trying to do, and it's been a really interesting dialogue to create this new vernacular again with body and music.
No, we talked a lot about the workflow you guys did with him as well.
You got that, yeah.
So it was great to hear from him how you guys collaborated and how he used metaphorical dialogue. With music, he used it for the storytelling and everything. So cool.
Yeah, it's great.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Great, yeah.